I'm in the painting stage of the dagger project right now, and this time I'm trying out a less than usual kind of paint. I started with a base coat of regular spray paint, but then I went with nail polish. Yeah, nail polish. Don't tell my girlfriend, but she's basically sponsoring this little weird experiment I'm about to run. Welcome to Cut, Transform, Glue. As most of you know, I'm based in Brazil, which means getting access to hobby supplies can be tricky, and by tricky I mean stupidly expensive. The hobby paint situation here is especially rough. That's why I'm mostly stuck with cheap acrylics over the years, and Brazilian folks don't even start with the 2 or 3 local hobby paint brands. I know them, I just can't afford them. With nail polish, that market is massive here, and where there's demand, there's supply, right? Plus, even though the bottles are tiny, the price per millimeter is actually really decent, so why not give it a shot? I'm sticking with the technique of giving the model a base coat of spray paint, so I hit the model with matte black where I want it to be, well, black, and white where I plan to go with the pink, giving myself a nice starting point pretty quickly, and then I went for the nail polish. At that point I had no idea of how the paint would react with the thinner and how it would behave on the airbrush, which is a patch 8. And in 5 minutes the whole piece was fully covered. Sure, it had already a coat of white underneath, but still, that was pretty amazing. And I also had no clogging, which is constant with the acrylic paint. Can't explain how amazed I was that this cheap paint was working so well, not just with the airbrush but with everything else. I've never been able to work this fast and get this level of color saturation and still keeping things really affordable. I kept going, adding shades of grey to the body, but I had to take a stop right there, because of course all these amazing things about the paint came with a price. Let me explain. As you can imagine, lacquer-based paints are way more toxic than acrylics. For the fumes, I've already ordered some proper mask online. I'm just waiting for it to arrive. But the real issue is the dust, the fine pigment that takes over the whole shop during the painting. I need to do something about that. Luckily, I've been hoarding some powerful computer fans, so I'm going to build myself a small paint booth. Hopefully I'll catch some of that dust with a filter and I'll count on a cracked window and that new mask to deal with the fumes. And to make a quick prototype, the best material is cardboard, of course. And with that, the scaled down prototype was ready. Now let's build it for real. And the material of choice for this simple paint booth? Styrene. I settled on a size for the back wall where the fan is going, not too big so it doesn't end up bulky and hard to store, but big enough to fit the kind of pieces I usually paint. And then, as always, I went with some 3D printed pieces. By the way, parts for this project were printed using this crazy good looking filament provided by H2D Systems. They've got a filament line called Conjure with these bi and tricolored filaments that look fantastic. They sent me 3 of them, or technically way more since they're multicolor, and I've been testing them out. So far, they've been working great. I'll make sure to include some links to their stuff down below. Thank you so much H2D Systems for the products. Now back to the project. This is the most important part of the whole paint booth. This is the piece that will hold an extra part where the filter will be. And for obvious reasons, it needs to be replaceable. To be able to do that, to remove that extra part, I'll rely on magnets. I'm also embedding some M4 nuts on that part so later I can replace the fan, maybe for a duct that brings the air out of the shop when I'm able to afford these kinds of tools. The last step is to glue that part with the magnets on the front side of the back wall using regular CA glue. And then came the M4 bolts to keep everything together. And I couldn't be happier, everything seemed nice and solid. Next challenge, the angled walls. And I know I said challenge, but there's actually a simple way to do it. Let me show you. See, if this is just a scaled up version of the cardboard prototype, the angles will be basically the same. So you can use the cardboard to find these angles and then just keep going forward. And once I made the first one, I decided that as the guide version, and then I made all 3 next ones based off of that. And then I made a build test using masking tape just to see if the size is correct. I could always kinda scale up the angled walls because yeah, the angles would stay the same. A process that was very useful because this is when I decided to replace the bottom plate with something heavier, like a piece of wood. Luckily, I'm also a hoarder of pieces of wood, so I had the perfect one just waiting to be used. I first marked the surface using the starting piece as a guide, and then I of course made a round corner because I want my things to look nice. And then it was just a matter of putting everything together, and to do it I made this angled piece right here. That angled piece would be glued on the back wall of the paint booth, the one that holds the fan. And then it gets screwed onto the wood base. And for the angled walls, I unfortunately didn't have a better solution than hot glue. and so I just went for it. And then came the last couple of 3D printed parts. This is the one that will be holding the filter, and it has a slot for a matching magnet. Magnets were glued again with some regular CA glue. Then I grabbed the filter, which was much bigger than my paint booth, and I cut and transformed it into a smaller version. And then I just had to put it in place and test the thing. And it sounded pretty promising. I was running out of time this week for this video, so I didn't broke out my airbrush, so let's test it with some smoke. And I guess that's it for this video. Will this actually help me with the nail polish ink? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, I'm counting on it mainly for the dust. For the fumes, I'm still waiting on a proper mask to show up in the mail. Down the line, I could replace the fan with a duct and a proper setup to pull the air out of the shop. But that's something for the future. If you want to support the channel and help me getting the tools I need, check out the links below. And as always, thanks for watching.